Hey guys, wanted to talk to you real quick about some quick tips for some different ideas around profit and loss statements. So I'm a big fan of knowing my numbers, knowing my financials, and being able to have my head wrapped around this stuff. And I got to tell you, a lot of people, they're intimidated by it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to get into it. So I'm not going to have any dry erase board or anything in front of me. I'm just going to talk at you and give you some points on it to help you with reading it and why it's so important. So the biggest reason why I like to read a P&L every single month on the month that I just had previously is I want to make sure that what I thought happened, happened. Okay, I thought the revenue was X. Was it really that when we all got done with it? Oh, maybe it's a little higher, maybe it's a little lower. I thought net was going to land around Y. Was it really that or was it not? It's very easy for you to say, I do 100 grand a month and I always make 20 grand. Well, maybe this time you only made 14. Or maybe this time you made 23. You don't know. I want to make sure that I understand groupings. So groupings are there for multiple reasons, but the biggest reason is so you can basically cut out the things that don't matter and only focus on the thing that does. So let's say your cost of goods looks great, but your overhead is really off. Okay, well then we know we can just forget cost of goods, don't worry about net, let's just focus on the overhead and what we have to do there. Inside the overhead, you might have even more groupings. You might have an operating group, right? You might have an office group, etc. Inside of cost of goods, maybe cost of goods is off, overhead is good, net is off because cost of goods are off. And so then you can go, okay, that's the grouping I got to focus on. I'm going to focus on cost of goods. Well, then you get down inside of that, and maybe it's your labor, or maybe it's your materials and parts, right? So I need to dive in and focus in on what is actually the cause of it, right? You follow me? So we want to make sure that when we look at it and we see it all grouped out, that it's grouped correctly. Now, a lot of CPAs, bookkeepers, accounting services, they won't set up a chart of accounts that's actually conducive for auto repair. They won't set up one that's designed for auto repair. I'm a big fan of having the right chart of accounts. If you do that, it's just easy to read. You just glance down at yep, and you go through it and you check it all off. You make sure it's good to go. If you see something that's off, you go back and you talk to your accountant about it, right? So mine's basically right down the hall, and so they'll give me a stack of P&Ls in paper, and I'll have a red pen and a blue pen, and I'll go through with my blue pen, and everything looks good. I check. And when that group is good, a big check. Go to the next one, check. Oh, I see something. Grab my red pen, draw a little line, do a question mark, and I write my question out. Also, as I'm going down this P&L, each item, let's say it's technician labor, and it's supposed to be 15%. I'll go, and let's say it's 16.8%. I'll go write decent, because it's not great. I'll write decent, should be, or no, I'll do decent, and I'll go goal, 15%. Then I'll get down to, let's say you do rental cars, and they're at 4%, and the goal's 5% or lower, right? Everything's or lower. So it's at 4%. I'll be great, and then I'll put goal 5%. So they'll know they're 1% below. I write those goals on there because then my district manager takes those. They all get scanned into Basecamp. We get copies of them. Then those copies go out and get distributed to the managers via email. And then we tag them through Basecamp. We hit them that way as well. But once they receive it, they then can look at it and print it themselves. And we encourage our managers to print it. The district manager then comes around and reviews it with them. And they go through it together, and they put that in their file box. And then they have a hard paper file on right there with them on site. The big thing is, though, you want to make sure you compare your P&Ls correctly. So a lot of people will say, oh, it's November, let's do November to November, or it's March, let's do March to March. There's a problem with that. When you just look at April and you look at last year's April, well, what if last year we had a snowstorm? What if you were down some employees? What if it was a pandemic? What if you had something going on with marketing that month? So I need to compare April to April. But I also, if I'm in today's April, want to look at what just happened in March and what just happened in February. Is it getting warm earlier than it normally would? Is it getting cold more than it normally would? Do I have more staff than I normally would? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Take all of that, take last year, take the knowledge from both, and this year we're not just looking at what's happening live, we're looking at the season we're in. You know, if it's April, it's spring. So I'm looking at the last trailing 2 months. I'm in the third month. I'm looking at the 2 months before. I'm going to do the same thing last year, and I'm just going to use more wisdom. I'm not a fan of budgets. I prefer forecasting because I don't like using wisdom from basically yesterday and using it for today. I believe I'm smarter today than I was then. And so I'd like to use today's information, but I'm still going to look at the season of what's going on. Because last year, I may have had a snowstorm in April. But this year, it's hitting 75 degrees. And you have to be able to look at that and know, oh, I lost 2 business days, so I can't use last year. Or I can divide it and then multiply it by 21 days, whatever we had last April, even though we had some taken away, and compare those numbers. Then I can look at this year and go, well, it's also a bit warmer. I should be expecting more. Oh, and my technicians are a little better. My office staff's a little better. I got some better salespeople. Whatever it might be, I can then use that to predict where I'm going to land. Don't just go April to April. It has to be April to April, season to season. When you take it all in, you're then able to connect and in your head understand where it's going, and then bring in, is my staff performing better? Do I have more staff? Are we just executing at a higher level, etc.? When you take all of that combined with your groupings, having the correct chart of account set up, etc., then your P&L talks to you. When you get to the very end, it says a positive or a negative number, you get to circle it and go, good job, or circle it and go, not real happy with this. Sign your name, give it back to the accountant, and the accountant right then, whether they're off-site or in-house, can then go and cut bonus checks for everybody. Once they're able to do that, then they get to keep rolling. If you make it a rule that no bonus check gets cut unless you've been paid, then the entire system causes a dog chasing its tail type effect. Let's say I get distracted next month and I just don't get around to doing P&Ls. Well, the moment I realize, holy crap, people aren't going to get paid, what do? They start going, hey, Aaron, we got to do this. We're not going to get people paid. And now it's not just me holding up that rule. They're now enforcing the rule years later. It's part of our culture. People can't get paid. Aaron, we need these. We need these. Aaron, we got to get these done. I mean, we can't pay these managers. And because of that, that causes me to perform and go through it. You have a fiduciary responsibility for the rest of your life. The rest of your life. 20 minutes every month to spend on your profit and loss statement. If you own a business, that's part of the deal. I don't care if you're like, I'm not a numbers person. It doesn't matter. For the rest of your life, you at least have to review it and understand it. You don't have to be passionate about it. You don't even have to like it. But you have to have the discipline to at least look at it. Because if you don't, that's where you get stolen from. That's when you start to lose your grip and understanding. And then that's how people take advantage of you and your family. It's your responsibility when you step up into that CEO position. All right, guys, hope this video helped. If you like this tip and you want to know more, go to shopfixtraining.com and sign up for a free training where you can get a lot more information. I'll see you in the next video.